Hello, everybody. This is episode 45 of the Mind Body Musings podcast. Today I'm going to come to you with a question. What would you think if I told you that for the next 100 days, you have to find a way to be rejected every single day in a unique and different way? What if one day I said you had to ask a stranger for a compliment about yourself? What if another day I told you that you'd have to go to the grocery store and ask for a discount or ask for something for free? What if I told you that you had to make an announcement to the entire plane on the intercom next time you flew somewhere? Or what if I just told you to ask someone what they thought about your body or thought about your soul? Well, that's what our guest does. I'm not going to lie. I think that this guest has got to be one of the most inspirational and insightful people that I've ever had on the show. I'm astounded he's on today. I feel honored, blessed, and I have so much gratitude to be able to share his message with you guys. Though this show typically focuses around the topics of food and weight and body image, everything that we're talking about today with our guest is very much intertwined with those topics. We're not going to be directly talking about food or weight, but we're talking about fear. And a lot of times the reason why we have these crazy or restricted habits with food and dieting and these obsessions is because we fear not being in control. We fear rejection, ultimately. We fear not being accepted, whether we want to be just accepted by ourselves or we want to be accepted by our peers. We want to be accepted by our label, the groups of people that we hang out with, whatever it may be. Today's guest is going to give us so much insight. And while I haven't done rejection therapy myself, and I haven't done the actual practices that he went through, I'm really going to start because I think that this will be a great way to just become, immune to rejection and immune to the heartache that we feel every time we're rejected by something, because our guest sets out to do exactly that. He wants to get rejected. So today, I want you guys to just really get pumped up because this is a big interview, and I'm really excited to share his wisdom with you guys and even to listen to this over and over myself. And hopefully I'll be putting together a list of things that I want to get rejected by, because I think this is going to help a lot with just everyday life and asking questions that you wouldn't ask before. Also, real quickly, you guys, I want to say that my book, The Perfection Myth, is for free right now on Amazon. If you go to Amazon or you go to the show notes for this episode, maddiemoon.com/mbm45, you can get the book for free. There's a link in there, or you can just go to Amazon, search for The Perfection Myth. It's free on Kindle. Sorry, not the paperback version, but the Kindle version, and you don't need a Kindle to read it. You can just click now, download it, and then you can read it online. But it's free until the 19th of April, so on Sunday. So go ahead on over, get that. Also get the book that we're talking about in today's episode by Jia Jiang. It's phenomenal, rejection proof. You're going to love it. Can't wait to head on over to this show, so let's go ahead and get started.
Welcome to the Mind Body Musings podcast, the show for everyone and anyone that is ready to break free from the dogmatic chains of the health and fitness industry and create their own life free from restrictions. Now, introducing your host, Madeline Moon, a former fitness model gone sane, and the author of the popular self-love book, The Perfection Myth. If you dig the show and you're looking for more insight on how to stop food and exercise from controlling your life, check out her website, maddiemoon.com, and grab your free guide. If you're ready to end dieting once and for all, it's time you learn how to pursue real health instead. Enjoy the show.
All right, welcome back to episode 45 of the podcast. We're speaking to, and I kid you not, one of the most inspirational and thought-provoking individuals today. Though he's humble and may beg to differ on the statement, Jia Jiang is changing the way the world views fear, rejection, and the art of entrepreneurship. For anyone that hasn't heard of Jia yet, he is the creator of the popular YouTube series 100 Days of Rejection, where he sets out to get rejected by strangers in unique ways for 100 days straight. This experiment was a way for Jia to improve his own fear of rejection after his entrepreneurial dreams came crashing down. So I'll learn that even the craziest wish may be granted if you ask in the right way, and shares the secret of successful asking, how to pick targets, and how to tell when an initial no can be converted into something positive in his new book. But more important, he learned techniques for steeling himself against rejection and ways to develop his own confidence, a plan that can't be derailed by a single setback. Filled with great stories and valuable insight, Jia's new book, Rejection Proof, is a thoughtful and fun examination of how to overcome fear and dare to live more boldly. I have never been more excited to interview someone in all 45 episodes of this show, so let's get rolling. Welcome to the podcast, Jia.
Hey, Maddie, how are you? Wow, that introduction was pretty high. That was tough to live up to.
No, every word, I mean every single word, because what you do, like with your career and with your passion, you're so driven and it's so inspiring. And I think that the elephant in the room with any kind of dream is fear. And the fact that you're kind of like but the fact that you are charging it head on is really inspiring to so many people and helps everyone with it.
Thank you. I mean, it did become it has become my life mission now to talk about rejection, because very few people talk about it. And people talk about failure, people talk about fear all the time, but very few people talk about rejection. So fear of rejection has become, for lack of a better word, my mission in life.
So let's go back to the beginning. First of all, I want to know how this got started, the 100 Days of Rejection, but I also want to know kind of how you were raised. Were you raised in a way to face these kinds of things head on? How did this come about?
No, actually, I raised to be the opposite. I grew up in a family where my parents would basically say yes to me on everything. Very few rejections. They were very protective. They loved me. So, but as a result, I did not know how to handle rejection. So I remember there were times in my life where I feel humiliated because teachers said no to me in class, and those memories stick with me until for a long, long, long time. And even after, but when I was 14, I met Bill Gates. Not one-on-one. I wish, but I saw him speak, and then he just touched me. I thought this guy knew the truth. I want to be just like him. I want to be an entrepreneur like him. And this is where another version of me where I want to change the world. So I came to the U.S. with this idea when I was 16. I want to go to high school for a year, then go to college. But then later on, I want to build the biggest company in the world, just like Bill Gates did. So there was these two versions of me I just talked about. One was terrified of rejection on one hand, but I also want to be a world changer. I want to make my mark in the universe.
Wow. And seriously, you have been. This whole thing just came about from that, from being inspired from Bill Gates. And that's such a testimony. It's such a story of where you started and how you've used your own experiences, even though you were raised in a completely different way, to, be the change in the world that you wanted to see, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, it's not like those two. I think we all have this part, right? Different versions of ourselves. One side we have this fear, we have this thing that are holding us back, but on the other hand, we want to make a difference in the world. We all do, like you do. I know you do with your blog and everything. Mm-hmm. But I know we all do. If you're listening to this podcast, you want to make a change in the world. But there's other part of you that's probably, like what happened to me. There's parts of me that just hold me back because of my fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was telling you about this earlier, when we last talked. I have a crazy fear with just public speaking, which is funny because I can talk to thousands of people as long as I'm, safe behind my computer screen. I'm happy. I'm okay because I can't see all these faces. But in your mind, you make up these consequences. The worst thing that could ever happen is going to be this. If I get up and I face my fear, all these crazy things are going to come crashing down. And all it takes is that one time where you just get up and you do that one thing that scares you the most, and you realize, well, hey, that wasn't so bad. And you may even enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah, and even if it's bad, it could be bad. I'm not saying like it's even it could be bad, but did you die from it?
Yeah.
Did it make any material difference in your life? That did you lose a leg? Did you lose part of a brain because of that? No, like so seldom that the thing we fear the most, can have this life and death consequence to us.
Okay, so let's talk about 100 Days of Rejection and how this actually came to be. What was the entrepreneurial dream that you had starting out and then led into this?
So I want to be a technology entrepreneur, like the one that you see in Silicon Valley. You build a mobile app, you build this cloud technology and all that, right? So that's what I wanted to do. I want to change the world through technology. But I had this desire to do it, but didn't do it for a long time until was really 30-year-old, become a 30-year-old and having kids. That became a catalyst for me to quit my job and become an entrepreneur. Really, because I did not, I thought I did not want to be this guy who didn't chase his dream and use his kids as an excuse, and saying, I didn't chase my dream because of you were born, basically. I actually want to say to him that, I chased my dream. I went after it because you were born, so I can be an example to you, so you can do it. That's what I wanted to do. I quit my job when I was 30 and pursue this, build this mobile app, and I formed the team. But what happened is I was rejected with the investment 4 months into my venture, and I was hurt because I wanted this investment. I wanted it so bad, and I couldn't believe I got a rejection. So the rejection hurt so much that I wanted to quit. And this is where I realized, I mentioned there are two versions of me, right? There's a version that's afraid of rejection. There's a version that wants to change the world. And I cannot let that version that's afraid of rejection win every time, because he was about to win again, make me quit my dream. So I went to search and to see what can I do to overcome this fear of rejection. And I searched online. I found this thing called Rejection Therapy. Basically, it's a game. Ask you to look for rejection every day. It give you cards, and you would for 30 days, and every day you would look for rejection. And by doing that, you desensitize yourself from the pain. And that's what I did. That's what I did. But I did that for 100 days. And I started a blog about it, this whole experience of rejection and what I learned. And also, I filmed myself with a video camera and using my iPhone, and I've recorded myself being rejected. So now I can share that with the world. So, and because I wanted the world to hold me accountable, otherwise I would just forget. I mean, not forget, I would quit pretty quickly. So that's what I did for 100 days.
So when the very first one that you did, what was the very first assignment you gave yourself to get rejected?
Yeah, I went to a stranger who was sitting at a desk. He was a big guy, and he looked like a security guard type of guy. I asked him, "Hey, can I borrow $100 from you?" And he looked up to me, and he was shaking his head. He was like, "No, but why?" And I just started running. I just got myself out of there as quickly as I could, because I was so afraid that I felt so humiliated. I ran as fast as I could. So, but that night I uploaded a video. I saw myself on YouTube. I found, all right, this guy doesn't seem that menacing to me, right? He was a big guy, but he wasn't like pulling out his taser or pepper spray or anything like that. He said no, but he asked me why. In fact, he was extending the conversation to me, inviting me to talk, but because I was so afraid, I just ran. So I said, wow, this is like a microcosm of my life, where every time I hear a simple no, I would just want to quit. And so I want to make a change from there on. I said, no matter what happens, I would not just run next day. I would stay engaged.
So do you think that being able to record yourself and go back and watch and kind of review it, was it like a combination of like, oh, I don't want to watch myself have to go through this again, but then also like a moment of relief, like having a different type of perspective, being the one to watch this happening instead of actually like being there again in the moment, if that makes sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because usually when I was re-experiencing myself. I was re-experiencing the episode of what happened. And by doing that, I became a third person, more objective observer on what was transpiring. And so I could see his reaction. I could see my reaction. I could analyze myself. I could know what I did well and what I didn't do well. So I think that's actually, I recommend everyone who wants to learn anything to record themselves and watch, even though people hate to watch themselves on video.
Mm-hmm. Do you have, out of all the videos that you recorded, do you have one that was your absolute, not your hardest, because I want to know about your hardest, but do you have one that was like your favorite and one that just made like a huge impact on your life?
No, I would say the Krispy Kreme one. This is on day 3 where I went to a local Krispy Kreme store. For those of you who don't know, Krispy Kreme is a very popular donut shop in the southeastern part of the U.S. I mean, it has a shop in every part, I guess. But in Austin, it was very popular. So I was driving by the store and I thought, what is something that I can ask the store to make me? It was the year of the London Olympics. So I said, okay, maybe they can make me donuts that look like Olympic rings. And they're basically, you interlink 5 donuts together and make them look like the rings, right? There's no way they're going to do it. But I went in and the donut maker took me so seriously. And she thought, oh, okay. She was jotting down the rings and the colors around it. And she was like, when do you need them to be done by? I said, 50 minutes. She's like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And in 50 minutes, she brought up a box of donuts that looked like Olympic rings. It was amazing.
And I always wondered, did you eat those donuts?
I did. Okay. I did. It was way too sweet.
Oh.
but it was sweet overall. I mean, that whole experience was sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very impactful. Like, I've watched that one several times. But you could just tell that you brought so much joy to her life, and like, this was all a part of the experiment, but yet you made her night because she got to use her creativity. And like, it just kind of goes to show that you never know, if you don't ask, like, you might both be missing out on an opportunity.
Absolutely. We often think that, we don't ask for stuff because we want to bother people. That's one of the excuses we tell ourselves. I mean, which is legit in some ways. But the thing is, instead of thinking that, let's think about collaboratively and creatively. If we ask someone, maybe we can tackle a problem together. Maybe that person is just dying to help someone. I mean, aren't you dying to help someone? I am. I know, like, if someone asked me to help someone, I would feel good. So, why rob someone of the chance of helping? I'm not saying this is true for everyone, but way too often we say no to ourselves because we don't want to bother people, because we think other people will say no to us. We just don't like the pain of rejection.
Mm-hmm. I think you make a really excellent point with that, because, like, thinking about my own experiences, there's one thing that I always, like, say someone is being really snippy or snappy or even sad. They're just showing an obvious emotion of, like, this person is in pain, this person's frustrated, this person isn't very happy. Like, naturally, a lot of us want to reach out and say, are you okay? Are you doing fine? Like, do you want to talk to someone? But if it's a stranger, that's really scary, because what if they're just like, no, like, I don't want to talk to you about my problems. I don't even know you. That's one of the things I struggle with, because I want to be that helping hand or that person to say, hey, I can see you're in pain. But at the same time, I'm a little bit nervous of how it might come across if I say something like, are you doing okay? Like, do you want to talk? Maybe it'll just set off a weird vibe. So sometimes that's something that I personally struggle with, is just not being as compassionate as I want to be out of fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all because the English word no is one of the most painful words in the vocabulary. And we, because of that, we say, we try to avoid no as often as possible. And as a consequence, we say no to ourselves first before anyone else, right? We just kept saying no to ourselves, but so we're the worst rejecter of who we are, because we don't want to touch the pain of rejection.
That is so true. And like I told you, my podcast is a lot about body image and a lot of insecurities. And we talk a lot about disordered eating, and it's so true that one of the biggest roots of disordered eating or just body image struggles is that we're afraid. Like, we're afraid of not being in control. We're afraid of rejection, of not being a part of a certain diet club. It's just all rooted in fear. And that's one of the reasons why I was so attracted to the work you're doing, because it can really relate to all sorts of different areas, just like with relationships or career or body image, because it's very intertwined. Like, we struggle with the fear of rejection, or maybe an experience in our past where we were told no and crushed our dreams. So we latch onto something we can control, like food or fitness, or just creating this perfect body because it's getting what you want. It's not being told no. Like, you're controlling the outcome, and it's all perfectly in line with what you want.
Absolutely, and we're clinging onto an outcome because we care so much about a lot about what other people think of us, you know, and whether that's you know, food, whether that's body image, whether that's success or failure, whether that's rejection or acceptance, you know. And so throughout my 100 days, I started, you know, I learned not to really care too much about what other people think of me. You know, it's really as strange as it sounds. I was looking for rejection, right? But I learned that some of my biggest fear was like, would people think I'm crazy? Would people think I'm, you know, how would they see me? But really, in the end, I found it's more about the other person than me. It's more about this, you know, someone might reject me, someone might accept me, but it's based on his or her prejudice and way of seeing lives and cultural background, education, maybe his or her mood of the day. I have no control over that. And so I don't want, you know, so I don't want to focus on those things anymore. So, you know, I want to focus on what I do myself.
Yeah, that's all you can control.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you share with us one of the harder challenges you set for yourself, one that maybe really hurt you or really dug deep or just affected you in a different way than the other ones did?
You're talking about throughout my 100 days?
Yeah.
Interesting. So which one hurt me the most?
Or was harder to move past because you're just like, wow, like,
yeah,
that doesn't feel good.
The one that was the hardest are usually the ones in public, where I would run the risk to be rejected not by one person, but by a group of people. This is where, you know, and it feels like there's a compound effect when you have the risk of getting rejected by many, many people. And for example, I one of my rejection requests was I went to the street of Austin, and on the empty street, I mean on the street where people were walking by, I want to give a speech. That was terrifying. It was really terrifying. It somehow stood out more from all the rejection requests I give. And it's, you know, sometimes I feel talking to one person is not that hard even after a while, but talking to a group of people is super terrifying. So yeah, so giving a talk, giving a public storytelling on the street is pretty tough.
How did the people respond to you?
Most people didn't care. Like I was having I had a sign saying public storytelling in 5 minutes. Stop by if you're interested. And when the time is up, no one was stopping. Guess what? I just said, you know what? Instead of going home, I'm just gonna start talking. I'm just start giving that talk and see who's interested. And lo and behold, there are a few people who are interested, and I gave my talk. So when I was done, they give me applause. They give me applause. But because it was, I mean, I know you have this fear of public speaking, right? Mm-hmm. I had that fear as well, and this episode really helped me because now, because I did that, I know I can always rely on this strength of this story. I knew I can do this on the street instead of even in front of other people. You know, if I knew I could, do that on the street, I can do it when people are paying, when people are like traveling to see me talk.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, like, I think for entrepreneurs and for more specifically coaches or people that are selling a service that is solely like them, it makes you challenge what your worth is. Like, my services cost this much. To hear me speak cost this much. And it's like you deciding your value and your worth. And then that's when the fear of like, am I worth that much? Is what I have to say actually valuable? No one's going to come anyways to hear me like speak that. But like, we don't know what those listeners or those people out there need to hear in that moment. They might need exactly what you have to say. Every like stutter, every single mumble, like they may need to hear all of that. Like, we don't know. That's not in our control. All we know is that our experiences are enough and they're valuable and they're needed.
Yep, absolutely.
So I have a friend, and well, I have a few friends that follow you closely, but one of them wanted me to ask you if you had to choose one rejection for someone to go for to start to do this, to start to do their own kind of rejection therapy, what would be like the one beginning point?
Maybe, okay. Go to a grocery store and buy something and ask for a discount. That one's very easy. And easy because those people are the people who are talking to at the cashier. They're trained to talk to you, or they're required to talk to you. So they're trapped, basically. But go ask. For example, buy a banana. If it costs like $1, say, can I pay 80 cents? And if they hear no, and you can ask, is there any way I can get a discount, or is there any way you can help me to make it happen, or and things like that. So that's a good starting point.
I love that. Okay, so I have another funny story.
Sure.
So my boyfriend, actually, we haven't been dating for all that long, but whenever I had my first phone call with you, I brought it up like, oh, I had a phone call with this guy who I really admire the stuff he's doing, and he was like, oh, who is it? And I was like, oh, his name's Jia. He does this thing called 100 Days of Rejection on YouTube, and he was like, what? What? I follow him like really closely, and I had no clue. I had no idea that he like knew who you were and followed you, and then we totally geeked out for a minute, and then he said that he had been doing rejection therapy himself. Like, he was doing it, I don't know, a couple years ago or something. He hasn't done in a while, but he said that when he lived in a different state, he was doing that like a lot actively. He wrote lists of things to set out and do, and he's an entrepreneur as well. So this was something I guess that was introduced to him to help him with strengthen his entrepreneurship. But him and his roommate started to do this, and I don't remember all of the stories he shared with me, but I remember one that they were, and what you just said reminded me of this, but they were at like a 24-hour gym or like a fitness club, and their small challenge was to ask one of the store managers if they could have some Cliff Bars for free. And the girl was like, oh, you want some Cliff Bars? Yeah, I have an entire box. You can have the whole thing. And like, normally Cliff Bars are like, a couple bucks, and she just handed over an entire box of Cliff Bars for them to just take home for free. Like, absolutely crazy.
I know, but a lot of times we don't ask those things. If people ask me, like, I give a lot of talks, public speeches, and afterward, like, sometimes people, one or two brave souls would come here and said, hey, can I get a copy of your book? I at the time, my book isn't out yet until for another week. And so usually when that happens, I have I don't have a normal copy. I have a pre-copy. But always the first person asked, I will always sign a book and sign a pre-copy and give it to her for free for the guests to ask. But a lot of people want to ask. A lot of people thought about it, but they don't do it because they're kind of say, what if you say no? So, but I always prepare that. It's the same thing. You never know if you don't ask.
Has doing this kind of helped the way that you respond to people who ask you things, like versus when you started this?
Yes, on both ways. On one side, it made me kinder to say yes to people. But on the other hand, I also learned I need to say no to people in many cases. Because obviously I I've gained a lot of I guess online fame through this. A lot of people write me emails for requests for one or the other. Sometimes I can't fulfill that request just because my time's limited, and two, I have to focus on doing what I'm doing. But as the result, I actually learned how to, I did this 100 days of rejection, right? I learned some people really know how to say no, and some people don't. The people who know how to say no actually made me fans of them when I walk away. So I start using those skills when I have to say no to people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, like the no's are kind of what have made you rejection proof in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the title. That's the title of my book, by the way.
Yes, I know. I was kind of playing on that. Okay, so another question I wanted to ask is for people who have never done this before and are listening and they're like, yeah, this sounds like a cool idea. Probably not for me though. Because I know there are a lot of people out there that thinking this is awesome, but I am too scared to do that. Do you think that making a list and is this something you have to just kind of throw yourself into if you're really wanting to get serious about, not being afraid of rejection? Because maybe it's not as easy just to walk about day-to-day life and just think, maybe I'll try something here and there because it might never happen. Because to me, in my head, I feel like this is one of those things where if you don't actually commit to it, you're probably not going to do it because that's how strong fear is. So you have to like really dedicate, a list to check things off or it won't get done. But I could be totally false. That might just be my all or nothing kind of thinking. Is this something that you could just kind of glide into here and there, or do you need that dedication?
I think both. The thing is, just like exercise, right? If you do any exercise or just walk a little bit more, it will make you healthier every day. But the thing is, if you want to get serious about something, you probably want to have a dedicated time. But it doesn't have to be 100 days. We always think, wow, it's going to be, let's make it as long as possible, 100 days or 200 days. Those time frames sounds very intimidating. But if you can set yourself up to be, say, 30 days or maybe even just a week. Every day in that week, I would ask for something. Your life will be changed in 1 week. I can tell you that. I mean, it might not be like, a huge change, but you can learn a lot about who you are and how the world operates and how people think just by putting yourself out there and asking for crazy stuff.
And like in the online world, people can be very supportive if they're your fan, but they can also be really cruel, and being like behind a computer screen makes people feel safe and comfortable so they can say things that aren't that friendly. And I'm assuming like if you've had some haters out there, it's been a little bit easier to handle that kind of rejection after all of this, right?
Absolutely. And I learned that rejection is nothing more than people's opinion, right? We'll have opinions, and we have more than, I often say rejection, or I often say like opinions is the cheapest resource on earth. We all have them. We're more than willing to give them to you for free. And so because of that, rejection is nothing more than people's opinions and preferences. And there's no consensus. If you're not getting rejections, you're not touching a nerve. You're not making a difference in the world because people are just lukewarm towards you. People are indifferent. And that's the last thing you want to be. You want people's reaction. You want them to care. So don't be afraid of rejection. If you're not getting rejected, you're not doing the work.
Mm-hmm. My mom, she is like one of the smartest people I've ever known. She said something that you just reminded me of. She just said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I know that's kind of a famous quote. Someone else said it, but it makes a lot of sense to me because that's one thing that I struggle with. I'll be completely honest. A lot of times when I post things, I did a post like 2 weeks ago just on my Facebook page, and it's the only one that I would ever say went big. Like it reached like 60,000 people. Tons of people shared it. They loved it. It was about my body and how that body that I had at the time as a fitness model was really destructive and really hurting me. And deep down inside, I was suffering a lot. But, even though I got all those shares and likes, it's like the 3 people that called me an idiot that
stuck with me. Like I latched onto that, and I was like, why are they calling me an idiot? Why are they so mean? Why would they do something like that? Why do they think that about me? They don't even know me, and I get all defensive. And then I told my mom, and she told me that back, and I was like, that's so true. Like I have to stick by what I believe in, or I won't be making any kind of difference in the world, and I won't be helping anyone. And I think the same goes for every single individual on this planet. Like there are always going to be people that think that what they know is better than what you know, or think that their opinions matter more, or anything like that. But you have to be able to just kind of let it go and be firm and side with yourself, like just know that your words are valuable and that they're needed, and there are always going to be people out there that will have a no.
Yeah, absolutely. And I learned that there's no good idea or good quote or person that is universally good that everyone will say yes to. It's impossible. It's a law of large numbers. If you are reaching enough people, someone will say no to you. Some people will call you an idiot. But as the flip side of that, someone will say yes to you as well. So you cannot use like the yes and no's to be the merit of your of judgment of merit of your idea of who you are or what you're offering. And you just, if you believe in enough, you go for it, and you reach for the people who say yes to you, and the people who say no are detractors.
How are you going to be raising your children differently so that they're not afraid of rejection?
Oh, that is a very interesting question, because just last week there was an article on Time magazine that this lady wrote about me and my book, and she's talking about right now is the hardest time for a lot of parents, because they would raise our kids to be. We'll try to protect them. We'll try to deflect rejection. We'll try to deflect criticism. We'll try to just raise them in the most safe environment. But now is the time they get rejected from colleges. For some of them, it's the biggest rejection they have had to date. A lot of heartaches, a lot of tears. How do they, inoculate their kid from that? And so, what I'm saying is, first of all, if you can get your kids to be okay with the idea of rejection, to be comfortable with rejection at the earlier age, and that's better. That's actually much better for them. It sets them up better for their lives. So that's the first thing I want to do. So for my own kid, I will see become more understanding and used to have better understanding of the world, basically. I want him to push back on, not necessarily to push back, but I want him to, after my rejection, like I have to say a lot of no's to him, right? Otherwise, he would be full of candy in his mouth every day, every minute. But when I say no to him, if he can convince me to change my mind, if he give me a good reason, I will give him a tool set of how to change my mind. And if you can convince me and give me a good argument about why he should have something that he wanted, then I can change my mind. And I want him to know that never just to give up. Sometimes that driving me crazy as a parent, because sometimes I just want to be end of the conversation. But to be a really good parent, sometimes I have to teach him to not give up, and how to handle a no from me. How do you handle a no from friends, from your teachers? How do you stay engaged? How do you not give up? I think those skills are very important to teach your kids.
I think that's really great that you're addressing this issue with kids, because I think that we are taught to, obviously, as humans, we're taught to avoid pain. Like, we just don't want to have this kind of pain, but we need more leaders to be able to show us how to handle it and how to actually make it a victory. And instead of playing like the victim and being like the loser in a situation, to know that you can come out, like, you're just as strong. Like you said earlier, it's people's opinions. Like, a rejection or a no is someone's opinion. And we have to be able to handle that to make a difference in the world. And for kids, it's such a sensitive thing. And I don't have kids, and investing myself into this world, like being able to talk to people like you and the rest of the people I have on this podcast, it's been really cool to get insights from other parents and people who have been raising their kids in a certain way, like, giving them the messages that they teach themselves on their own podcast or in their book, but without being like overbearing, and being able to give their children the freedom to make their own mistakes and decisions. But that's so brave, and that must be such a, I wouldn't say tough thing, but yeah, I mean, to be able to walk that line where you want to have kids who are bold and can stand up for themselves, but also take those no's.
In about 18 years, I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be an entrepreneur just like you.
Oh, I hope so.
Okay, so your book. Let's talk about your book, because I'm super, super excited about it. I've been reading the first few chapters, and it's marvelous so far. You definitely have a gift for writing. So tell us, so this podcast is coming out on the 15th, and the book is released on April 14th. So it'll be out for a day now. So give us some insight onto your book.
So basically, my book is it's about my story. It's about my story of you heard part of this. We're really just looking for rejection. How my battle with rejection, but turned into this great opportunity of discovery and learning about what rejection is and how we can learn from it, how to overcome it, how to turn that into opportunity. Right. So, but also I embed a lot of learning and a lot of lessons, a lot of scientific research into these stories. So, for example, after you learn it, hopefully after you learn it, you can just start going out and want to change your life and want to do something. But also I'll teach you a toolkit called Rejection Toolbox, where there are certain things you can say and certain things you can do to maximize your chance to get a yes. And there are certain things you can do to after you hear a no, you can actually turn that no into a yes. And there are a lot of things you can do to actually find the upside of every rejection. So this book is about my story, but more importantly, it's about the tools you can learn so you can become more fearless and invincible.
I'm so excited. I'm like, I just want to get the word out so everyone can get this book and start their rejection therapy and be rejection proof.
I hope so too.
Okay, so where can people find you after listening to this episode?
So you can find me on fearbuster.com. Fearbuster.com. To bust your fears, I guess. So fearbuster.com, but also you can find my book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or basically anywhere. The book is called Rejection Proof.
Yes, and I will make sure that I have the link to the book in the show notes for this episode. This will be at maddiemoon.com/mbm45, so you can check out his website as well as get the book straight from my website. And is there anything in the works for you that you can share with us? Anything upcoming besides the book?
Yeah, I run this online course. It's called Rejection Gym. So basically, I walk people across through this process of 100 days of rejection, where I will give you guidelines about how to experiment this yourself, how to expose yourself to rejection, and how to expand your comfort zone and enlarge your courage muscle. And so we just finished our first beta group, and the people were just doing crazy stuff. the things they're doing that just kind of blew my mind. And some of them are finding new jobs, some of them are getting their utility bills reduced, but this is all just in the middle of the course. And so I encourage you to check it out, rejectiongym.com.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I want to join that. I think that would be really helpful for me right now, just as I'm starting all my entrepreneurial journeys. I think this would be super helpful.
I think it would be helpful to anyone. Even for me, like I did this, and I'm a changed person. I just after the 100 days, I'm so different than I started.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. This has been definitely one of my favorite episodes, and I have been looking forward to recording this with you for I can't even tell you how long. So I'm glad that we got to geek out and talk about rejection, and can't wait to get everyone to read this book. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Maddie.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the podcast. Be sure to head on over to maddiemoon.com/mbm45 to check out Rejection Proof and see how you can start your own 100 days of rejection. We'll catch you next time. Bye.